Hello and welcome to the Happiness Is podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg-Shaped. And today I'm joined by someone who I've coached, I've watched from afar, and I know he's got a very bright future on the touchline coaching. And at the moment, he's currently developing the next generation for Scottish rugby. And I've no doubt he is having a significant impact on their progress. He is a good man from good stock, from the Scottish borders, where rugby is the number one game. He's been around, he's travelled, his family have been around and travelled, and now he's undertaken a huge charity task. He's got 3 to go, and I am delighted to try and give him a little bit of support. So please get on board, watch his journey, donate if you can, get the trainers on and go out and give a run to give him some motivation to get to that finish line, because what he's done so far has been absolutely superb. Let's get him in and have a chat to him. It's Chris Laidlaw. Hello, Chris.
Afternoon, Bruce. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Really pleased to have you on. We've been talking about it for a while, and we're finally getting there. So let's start at the where we are just now. What's this challenge? What is it you're up to?
Yeah, so the challenge has been to run 12 marathons in 12 months. Currently 9 down with 3 to go. And it's been a challenge that was born out of immense sadness for the family, losing mum last year during lockdown, and I wasn't going to play much rugby, if any, this year, so I decided to kind of take this challenge on at the start of the year. Originally, I was only going to run 1, and then for some crazy reason, I decided to do 1 a month, and here we are, 9 down in the home stretch and 3 to go before the end of the year. So, look, mate, it's been incredible in a number of different ways. I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that. But yeah, that's where we are at this point in time. So 3 to go. The body's holding up and excited to get towards the end.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely off your trolley. Were you a runner before? Obviously, I know you as a player and you worked hard on your skills and in the gym, but was running something you did?
Nah, mate. The longest I'd run actually was in, I think, 2013. I'd run a half marathon when I was in New Zealand. And that was the furthest I'd ever ran before I'd taken on the first full marathon of this year. So, long distance running, never my thing. But geez, it's been a hell of a challenge on that front.
So there's doing the 12 marathons, right? That bit is crazy enough, but you can't just do 12 marathons. So you undertook a fair bit of training. You have to run to keep yourself ticking over. Young family, job. You know, a physically active job where you're driving around, you're doing sessions. Where are you finding the time to train?
Yeah, it's probably getting shorter and shorter, to be honest, the time frame of training or doing between marathons. We did a fair, I suppose that up until the first marathon was a very condensed period of training. I had Junior and CK from Boroughmuir, and we'd done basically a 10K, a half, and a 30K in the space of about 5 weeks before the first one, which was like a baptism of fire. I'll never forget the 30K that we did along the canal, thinking that was the first time I thought, shit, I've let myself in here for a tough ride. Because I just remember coming towards Megaland, finishing that 30K, thinking, you know, I've got another 12 to go when I do the actual marathon itself. So, yeah, it's a tough old mission.
So you said it came out of sadness and lockdown. People came up with all kinds of crazy ideas for things they were going to do when they got the chance to do it. But you're doing it for charity, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm doing it for 3 charities, actually. So the first one being Marie Curie, who came in at the sort of final stages of Mum's life, probably the last couple of weeks, I think, in the house, and provided an immense support, really. It's, you know, our time at Boroughmuir, obviously Marie Curie were, you know, a big part of the club, and people raise money and I've seen it around, but I think until you actually experience what they do firsthand, it kind of opens your eyes to these types of individuals, and basically I wanted to give back something to them for the support that they gave us as a family, first and foremost. The second charity is Alzheimer's Scotland. So, you know, people know that Dad is suffering from Alzheimer's, unfortunately, and he kind of made that public towards the tail end of last year after Mum's passing. So, and they've been really great, I suppose, in signposting us in the right places around supporting Dad and what to do and what to look out for, and, you know, who knows what the future really holds, or the short to long term. So we just got to enjoy the short term and support Dad as best we can. So that's the reason I was raising money for them. And the third one is Murrayfield Injured Players, who, a lot of people may not know about, but they sit within Scottish Rugby and support players with, short-term injury or long-term. And the first dealings I had with them or knew about was Eddie Rennick at Jed Forest, who had a catastrophic injury when he was just a young fella in a scrum. So they've supported Eddie for a good number of years in terms of looking after him. And I got support when I had a bad shoulder injury. My brother Scott has had support through an injury as well. And they've been just really good and positive around Dad and making sure there's a good support network around him as well. So 3 charities that I felt like I had a really close connection with that I wanted to give something back to because of the experiences I've had. And it just, all in all, gives it a really strong purpose to why I'm doing it. And that's, I suppose, why a lot of people have maybe connected with it as well.
It's absolutely brilliant. I love it, and it's great to hear you speaking so passionately about it and wanting to give back. The charities are, Marie Curie is well known, Alzheimer's is well known, but the injured players one probably not so much. And I know Ian Rankin's done a lot for that. How much did you set yourself up for a target?
So the first target was 3,000. So I thought when I first set out, I thought £1,000 for each charity would just be awesome. So we're ticking along pretty nicely from there.
And you've raised what so far up to this point? What are you on?
I think the Just Given sitting just below 18,000. But I do have a bit of stuff I need to put in there still from people who have given me that. So we'll definitely be over 18,000, which is it's outstanding, Bruce. In a time where the last 18 months has been bloody challenging for everyone, hasn't it? People have showed massive, commitment to the challenge. Have been outstanding in terms of supporting it, whether it's on the days, running, getting in touch, or fundraising. And look, I never thought that would be possible in terms of the money, and now we're up to 18,000. I'd quite like to get to that 20, I think, before the year's out. So, but look, it's been far more than just about the money. But having spent a bit of time talking to the charities, been up at Marie Curie a couple of times, I know how much it means to them and how much the money will help them support people who have maybe gone through something similar to myself and the family. So, it's outstanding.
It's brilliant. And here's the back of my neck standing up. Now, I hate to say this, Chris, but I told you so. You phoned me before you started this and you told me that total, and I said, you're going to blast that. Now, I still don't think I thought you were going to get to 20 odd grand, but I think you're getting maybe a glimpse into how well thought of you are, your family is, the contribution that you've made to people's lives. Now, obviously, most of those people are within rugby, but good people, I tend to think, get good things happening to them, and I hope you're seeing that. Now, you mentioned your brothers there. Scott, I know well. I played a bit with Scott. He used to crack me up. We had a grand old time. But there's a bit of support coming from the other side of the world as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so obviously oldest brother Clark is over in New Zealand, and look, he's had a tough 18 months with mum and dad, and being stuck on the other side of the world, and not knowing when ultimately he can get out of there and come and visit, and thank goodness he did manage to get back just before mum's passing, which was a blessing. So look, he's done what he can over the other side of the world, and I suppose the biggest part was when they were in MIQ coming out the back of the Olympics. He decided to do 12 marathons on his watt bike in 12 days, and he got quite a lot of the players and management on board with it as well. But I think he got lucky because he got an actual watt bike, a good bike. But some of the players and other staff had bikes that were absolutely hanging. So I think they jumped on maybe for one day and thought, "There's no way I can continue for another 11." So, but fair play to Clark, and just having that support that sits there just keeps me going, because there's times where it's pretty bleak, it's pretty dark, whether it's training up to a marathon, whether it's on the marathon themselves. But when you can go back to people who have done something like that and jumped on board and connected with the challenge, I think it just keeps me going. So, he's always in touch. He's always asking how much faster I'm going to do them, but I don't think he realizes how hard it is to run one, never mind 12. So I just keep telling him I'm just getting through them, just trying to get through them. So
typical big brother. Typical big brother. Did he not do something else bloody silly as well?
Oh, he threw himself out of a plane. Yeah, he threw himself out of the plane for a charity across in NZ through the NZ Sevens. So he's not been short of a few challenges himself, coming to think of it of late. Yeah.
He's some boy. It's brilliant to hear that you're in touch, and I know he's found it difficult being on the other side of the world. We actually recorded a pod with him, and then the tech sprites got into it and destroyed it. So I'm hoping to catch up with him again. So big brother's obviously coaching. You're now getting yourself into it. You've been doing it for a while, but now you're employed by Scottish Rugby. How are you finding that role, developing academy players?
Yeah, I'm probably loving it a bit more now that the things have kind of with COVID, and we're out the back of that a little bit more, and we're starting to see some sort of more programs regionally get kick-started again and working with more players. Look, I do genuinely love coaching. I think I've got a real enthusiasm for making people better and connecting with the players, having good relationships, and ultimately just trying to make them the best they can on the journey, whatever journey they're on. And look, I'm in my very early stages of becoming a coach, and I think about the cycle I've kind of gone on from starting at Dunbar to where I am now in 5 years, and the feelings I've had around, I know quite a bit, to now I'm thinking, geez, I know nothing. So it's quite interesting, and I'm sure coaches that listen to this and yourself, who are an experienced coach, it's an up and down journey, but I'm genuinely excited about the future of my coaching journey and the future short term of the academy that I'm currently working with. And
from Jed, Jed's had however many unbelievable rugby players. I loved that they did the 999 dinner with your dad and Gary Armstrong and cousin Greg, all having done great things wearing number 9. Jed's had coaches. You've had lots of people that have influenced you. When you look back on that environment, is there bits you wish boys could experience now? Is there bits that you think, I wish we'd had what we've got now then?
Yeah, I suppose there is. Like, I think back to the early influences that I had as a player, and I suppose the big thing. So one of them would be Bill Johnson, for example, Mr. Johnson, as I still call him when I meet up with him and see him face to face, because that's what he was. He was my teacher when I went to the grammar school, a PE teacher. But he just had a massive love for the game and what the game was, and making sure that us boys had a really positive experience of the game and of the environment. It was never necessarily about like how good we could be as a rugby player. It was almost just enjoy being together, enjoy what the experience holds. Getting on a bus and going away to Peebles on a Wednesday night, and then stopping for a chippy on the way back. It's those things that I suppose you remember. And then from there, a guy like Kevin Barry, who was my under-18 coach, who was very passionate, had a real hard edge to how he delivered. So a total polar opposites, I suppose, to Bill J in terms of that. And Clark actually coached a little bit on my transition between under-18 and senior rugby. So, there's a good story. I had a really bad leg break when I was 15-year-old, and Clark was refereeing at the time. And I'll never forget, he was shouting at me to get off the floor while he was miles away from the play. And then he got closer and realised that my ankle was pointing the other way. So he as a sort of older brother and coach and mentor, he was in and around my sort of key transitions, which was quite cool when I look back on that now. And then I had various other coaches at the club. So I think that's what I try and bring with me, I suppose, is firstly the players need to love coming to whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a one-off session, whether it's the job I'm in now, each sort of Monday, Wednesday, Friday the boys are in. They need to love coming to that place because of the people that are there and because of the experience we're trying to provide. And ultimately, we want them to have a positive journey and a positive destination in rugby, because that's what I had in the very early stages. Like, my old man was never one for, you must play rugby, you're going down to the mini rugby on Sunday. He was just there. You just kind of went and he supported it rather than actually driving you to do it. So I suppose those little bits of experience I do try and hold within my coaching and relationship building with the players I'm currently working with.
And having your old man in a small place like Jed, that must have brought some pressure.
Yeah, like I get that. I suppose a lot of people ask me about that in terms of the pressure, the name, and at times I suppose I want to be Chris and I want to be recognised for what I do. I wouldn't say there's necessarily huge pressure. I think some people maybe have perceptions or expectations. But look, I just want people to recognise what I do, and it's the journey that I'm on. And look, I've got massive, I love my old man and cousin Greg and Clark and Scott and what they've done, and they've probably been top role models for me. So I think if I can take a bit of each single one of them and mold it into some of my stuff, then I should be on an okay track, hopefully.
Ah, you're doing bloody well, boy. Give yourself some credit. You went away to New Zealand. Now, I did that when I was 19, and I still look back on it and just absolutely loved it. And it was the same, but it was different. How did you find New Zealand as a youngster?
I think it's probably the best thing that I can think that I've ever done, from a number of different fronts. Probably the biggest one just from a life aspect, life experience. I was pretty lucky, Bruce, in the sense that Clark was there at the time. So Clark, his wife Karen, and family were already there, and myself and wife Alana, we went over knowing that they were there. So we had a ready-made support network when we got there, and we'll be forever grateful to them in terms of that and what they showed us and helped us settle in. But look, it was massive. I played football, believe it or not, for a short spell when I went over, because I'd played rugby since I was knee high, and thought, I'm only here for 9 months. We were only going for 9 months originally. The rugby season's like 6 months. I was like, do I really want to commit all that time to training and playing? Because that wasn't the sole reason I'd gone over there. It was more just a sort of work and holiday type thing. So I played football for a bit, which was it was great, just meeting new people. There wasn't many Kiwis, I have to be brutally honest, that were playing football. So you're meeting people from all over the world, and there was a couple other Scots there, and it was a brilliant experience. And then we actually stayed a hell of a lot longer than the 9 months. So the following year, I decided that I would join a club and play. And I look back, and I'm so glad that I did, because that experience was outstanding from a rugby point of view, in terms of just the way they went about their business, the training weeks, the games, the coaching, the culture. I played in a heavily sort of Polynesian team in Taranaki and Spotswood United. So, and I look back now and played with guys like Seta Tamanivalu, Waisaki Noholo, Yopu Yopu Aso, who have all, all black caps, New Zealand Sevens caps. And but at the time, they're just your, just run-of-the-mill people, like great people, down to earth. And it was just an awesome club to be part of, coached by Johnny Weston, who you'll know well, and Mike Collins, who's a legend in the Waikato and Taranaki. So look, I had an awesome experience. We beat New Plymouth Old Boys. I think it was the first time in God knows how long, many years. So I remember that feeling of the club, just absolutely loving the fact that they'd managed to get one over on their local rivals and having a hell of a time after it. So look, if someone was to come to me and say, look, I've got the opportunity to go and do this, then I'd just be like 100% go and do it, because it's such a positive experience from a number of different fronts.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I don't know what did you think before you went? Obviously Clark was there, and it's quite a common path for guys for the Borders to go and do a bit of rugby in New Zealand. Did it meet your expectations? Was it different? I'll tell you why I say this, because quite a lot of people think New Zealand everything's professional. They must have all the bells and whistles. Everything's the best. And actually, you get there, and you mentioned it about the ethos and the culture. That was what I found in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think, look, if I'm brutally honest, when I first went, that's probably what put me off going and playing rugby at that point in time, because I thought, I'm not overly invested in doing this for the whole season. I'm not too sure. I don't want to really throw myself into something where I'll get maybe eaten up and spat out the other side, because that's a perception I probably had, that it's going to be way better. It's going to be a lot harder. But actually, once you got into the mix of it, it was so good. Like, I remember thinking they'll smash each other in the week. They'll do loads of contact. It'll be really hard edge, to doing literally nothing, no contact. Pre-season was a pre-season I'd never experienced before, in terms of everything with a ball, everything games. And I remember going into the season just feeling like so fit. And then then the season itself was quite a short season, quite a short domestic season, and totally different, I suppose, to what my perception was from the outside going over there, and what a positive experience it was when I look back on it with such fond memories. That sort of 6-month window with Spotswood.
I remember guys just rocking up with their work boots on, just pulling on their shorts, pulling on some socks, some tacky old boots, and then they would go and have an 80-minute stormer, not bother with a shower, just put their work boots back on, jeans on, and straight into the bar. And you were like, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. It's such a great experience. And as I said before, if anyone listening gets the opportunity to do so, then fire in.
Totally, absolutely loved it. And then you came back, and I don't know how you felt when you've come back from an experience like that. Were you expecting that things would just take off, or did you come back and start from zero again? What was it like coming back to this country?
It's a really good question, because I suppose reflecting back in the here and the now, when I was coming back, I mean, the main driver to come back was Clark and Karen had left Taranaki to go and live in Wellington, so we'd lost that sort of family support network. But through the 2 years that we'd been there, we'd obviously picked up some new mates and some strong relationships with friends there. But it felt like the sort of right time to come back. We headed back to Jed. I went back to Jed Forest, and that first season when I came back, I would honestly say I was flying. I think that's probably one of the best seasons when I look back that I performed, probably.
Scoring tries for fun, if I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jed were in the highest of leagues, to be fair, but I remember just having so much confidence, Bruce, around like the game, whether that was through the coaching I'd had or whether it was just through the experience I had in life in general. I don't know, but I came back far more confident in my own ability. Felt like I was playing without any shackles, and had a really good season. I think that the toughest challenge when we came back was just as a couple, coming from New Zealand, going back to stay in Jed, where I was obviously from, but Alana was not from there. That provided a good few challenges. I remember sort of 3-6 months in of being home, turning to each other and saying, what have we done? I was enjoying the rugby, but away from the rugby, not so much. But look, we rode it out and for that season down in Jed, but then we transitioned up to stay and play in Edinburgh after that. But yeah.
Well, we'll not get into that in too much depth because I might get in bother for that. But when you left school, you probably, I don't know if you had much of a plan, but it's not the career that you're in just now. There's a lot of people who want to leave school and they get onto a ladder and they just climb it. I mean, you were in one thing and now you're in something completely different. How's that been? And you must still Alana must still have you making stuff and building stuff and fixing stuff, does she?
Yeah, absolutely, she does. There's always a DIY list of some description kicking about, but it's an interesting one because I left school when I was 16 to become an apprentice joiner with a local firm, Brian Moffat, who's actually a sort of relative of the family, and my brother Scott works and still works with Brian. So when I look back on that, I think should I have left when I was 16? Should I have, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. That option was there because Brian was willing to take me on and put me through an apprenticeship. So I did that, and if I had my time again, would I do that? I don't know, but I think what it did give me was such a good experience. That was a 4-year apprenticeship, and out the back of that, when I went to New Zealand, I had that and was able to pick up a job pretty much immediately. So look, if I hadn't done that and I went to New Zealand, then it would have been a very different story. So It was a different path to where I'm on now. And then when I went to New Zealand, I continued that. And when I came back, I continued it for a little bit. But I always had the sort of burning desire to work in sport or work in rugby of some description, as you probably know. And it did take me a long time, I suppose, to find the right job, the right avenue, be given an opportunity ultimately. I dipped into recruitment, IT recruitment, which honestly would never go back to. And it was never up my street or my skill set, really. and only done it for 6 months. But I think of the skills that I got from that 6 months and my ability to pick up the phone and talk to people about something that I had no idea what I was talking about. It was just crazy. But again, that was, when I look back on it now, it was an experience that took me way, way, way out of my comfort zone in terms of that job, and I would never go back to it. But I think it's given me some skills and some tools that I'm able to sort of bring with me now. So, look, it's been a very sort of, a path that's kind of crossed different directions. It's gone to different things, and I'm now, in a job that I genuinely love doing, and who knows what will be the future. But I think all of those things have given me a really good experience and something different. And I think that's the thing. I never knew what I wanted to do really. And it's probably taken me from 16 to, 20, 26, really. So 10 years to really find my feet and find something that I really wanted to do, that I love doing, that I enjoy doing. So, yeah, any youngsters, I suppose, that kick about and leave school, there's no rush, I suppose, as long as you've got a good support network around you, which I definitely had, that were always there to kind of keep nudging me back in the right direction, I suppose. It does take a bit of time. So
I think you've now found yourself in a brilliant job to mentor these kids that you've got. And I think those experiences are so important, because you can see wider than just what happens between the white lines. And I know you're very good at what you do, but I can imagine the boys really looking up to you, the players that you're working with really looking up to you. When you look back on those experiences, though, and then you arrive with a bag of balls and a stack of cones to your first session as a professional coach, somebody whose job is to coach, the learning curve must have been really, really steep.
Oh, it's been massive. It's been huge, because I got the job, the academy job, I think it was about October last year. And basically up until, 3 months ago, I hadn't really struck a blow. Now you spent time listening to other coaches and webinars and podcasts and listening, and all of a sudden you start thinking, geez, I know literally nothing. So then you start doubting yourself maybe a little bit around, actually, am I cut out for this? Am I the right person for the job? And I do remember that, the first couple of sessions being really, really nervous around, one, working with the players, working with new staff as a full-time professional environment, really, compared to my days at Dunbar and at Boroughmuir. So, I am on a steep learning curve, I think, a very steep learning curve, but I just need to be patient. I think that's probably one thing that I've learned through my time. I've always been an individual that probably wants things very quickly and in the here and the now, and want, success quickly. But I think I've probably learned through my experience over the last sort of 10 years that it does take time. I just need to be patient and enjoy the kind of the here and the now, and I'll get a chance to look back on it in the years to come and just enjoy the kind of journey that I'm on, and be the best coach and mentor and individual I can be within the program I'm in just now.
And the job you had at Dunbar, I would imagine there was a lot of run forward, pass backwards kind of coaching, and kids who were just picking it up for the first time, and it's a bloody complicated game. But that must have really grounded you again and brought you back to, right, do I love it? Is this what's important? And I know that you're well thought of in Dunbar, and the staff down at the PE department there and the rugby club have been supporting you through your charitable runs recently. How do you look back on that wee period of time?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think I was I say lucky, but that opportunity just came up at the right time. I think for me, I'd moved out to that side of Edinburgh. The club were obviously looking for a new development officer, and I managed to get the role down there. And I think everything from the community of Dunbar, East Lothian as a rugby region, the school down at Dunbar just was a great fit for me at that time. The people in the PE base down there were just top people. Great teachers, great people who I learned a massive amount off in terms of how they interacted with pupils, how they taught, how they put programs together for longer periods than just a one-off session that I never really thought about. And then working in East Lothian, who had some really good development officers at that time, and Jason Riley Fergus Pringle was the head of East Lothian Rugby, employed by the council there at Meadow Mill, who had a really positive impact on me as a young fella coming into that role, and keep in touch with Fergus a fair bit still, and enjoying watching his kind of journey as a Super Six coach and a leader of that group at Watsonian. So, yeah, I look back on that experience, delivering primary school sessions. I used to deliver rugby talk sessions, I think, and again, that probably comes back to my Bill J days, where you just try to make them fall in love with the experience. Like, it's not making them like better rugby players. It's not even necessarily worrying about the rugby. It's just falling in love with being at the rugby club, with being around people they enjoy being around, making friends. And I think that was a big part of why, I was reasonably successful in Dunbar, and especially at sort of the younger ages, and managed to get a reasonably good program going at the secondary school, because I was just trying to make it, the best place it could be for the people at that point in time. So, look, I'll always look back on Dunbar with fond memories. I absolutely loved working down there. There's a large number of players that are kicking about rugby circles out with Dunbar now, which is testament to those guys that they're good enough now to kick on. And there's some top players come out of Dunbar, and the club, it'll be a massive challenge for the club down there, just in terms of how, where do they fit within the landscape of rugby and the Dunbar community. But I really hope that they can get that right, because I had three amazing years down there, and we'll always be thankful to them for the opportunity.
Yeah, I can hear the passion in your voice, and I know they loved having you down there, and I know how much you got out of it. You must be at Murrayfield somewhere, or walking along the street, and there's a kid comes up and shouts at you. How do those little moments make you feel?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. There was a coach. It might have been Wayne Smith or someone that said that he felt that was the sort of top end of being a coach. If you can walk down the street, the guy recognises you, the guy stays on the same side of the street and wants to have a conversation. And I thought, geez, that's probably right. If you can build a strong enough relationship with an individual that you can have hard, positive, negative conversations, honest conversation with in the time that you're coaching them. And then when they leave your environment, they actually, want to spend time chatting to you and seeing what you've been up to, and talking not rugby and life in general. I think that probably sums it up. I was down, finished my last marathon down in Dunbar, and there was some kids that were, I think, primary 5 or 6 when I left, and now we're like S2, and I've got a lot bigger, and but they came across and had a chat, and it made me think about, the times that I was down there, and it's just awesome. And I think that's what sport and rugby gives you, doesn't it? It's those relationships, and throughout your journey as a player or a coach or a supporter or whatever it may be. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, amen. Love it. Absolutely love it. And then you got to do some of the elite stuff with the women's program.
Yeah.
How did that come around?
So that kind of happened pretty quick in terms of so Scott Forrest obviously was the head coach of the Sevens program for the women, but was on secondment to lead the GB women to Tokyo. So they were looking for someone to run a short program ultimately in early summer, springtime. There was 2 Rugby Europe tournaments which were acting as qualification for the Commonwealth Games next year. So look, they got in touch with myself, asked if I'd be interested. I remember getting the phone call from Stevie Gemmell, or the email at the time, thinking, geez, I don't know if I'm quite cut out for that yet. Then I thought, hey, let's just jump in, take the opportunity. I'll either sink or swim, and crack on. And honestly, it was probably one of the best experiences I've had as a sort of coach of. It was my first experience really of running a performance program, because I'd got the job with the academy, hadn't really struck a blow. That was my first time back on the grass, really. But what they did was they put a really good support network around me. Scotty Riddle was in helping on the pitch, who's got obviously massive experience around the game of sevens. Drew Scott was leading on S&C, who's also in with the national 15, so he knew the players particularly well, as did Jill Wilson, who was the analyst and manager, and then Tom Newton, the physio. So I felt like I had a really strong group of people in management around me. And I love the experience of being able to, I suppose, design a program, lead a program, deliver a program that was ultimately leading to tournaments, performance, with the goal of, you know, the group getting to Birmingham in the Commonwealth Games. So look, again, I've got a jersey sitting next to me actually, that the girls signed after Moscow, and I've still to get it framed. But look, again, like Dunbar, I think that'll be one thing that kind of stays with me as a really positive experience. Loved working with a group, just so keen to get better individually, collectively. We had a really close-knit, or what felt like a close-knit group, working hard, and then the girls who went on to represent in Lisbon and Moscow did really well. I remember in Lisbon losing our first 2 games, thinking, geez, this is tough. What do I do now? What do I do? But again, just remaining calm. The girls got a result in the next game, and that really fed into the rest of the programme. And we actually finished 3rd in Moscow, I think 4th overall out of the 8 teams. And it was just a brilliant experience getting to travel away and coach. And what an experience I learned heaps about. Made probably loads of mistakes, but hopefully got some little bits right along the way.
Oh, 100% you did. So I love speaking to Sevens coaches. I loved speaking to Clark about this. It's different from a 15s environment. There's fewer people for starters, but you don't really play at home. So you're in an airport, you're on a plane, you're in a hotel, you're on the bus, you're at train, you become so close. How did you find that aspect? You've mentioned relationships a lot. How did you find that aspect to being in charge of a Sevens squad?
Yeah, really challenging, because obviously COVID was still really, really prevalent at that time that we were traveling. So things were quite strict around what we could do actually when we were in those places, in terms of being able to go out and kick about. And so we did spend a lot of time probably in the hotels. But I think, look, working with the girls probably opened my eyes to them leading. You know, they drove so much of things themselves, in terms of socially. The rugby things. I remember setting up a couple of tasks, like analysis tasks, before we traveled to both Lisbon and Moscow, and just the work that they put in prior to we had like a 30 to 40 minute call. The work that they put in prior to the call, and then their delivery on the call was just outstanding. And you're not having to like really push them and pester them and drive things hard myself. And I don't know if that was a sort of reflection on the environment that we'd managed to create in the short space of time, or I think it was just more those individuals who were really driven to make the thing work. And they're really, really ambitious, the players around, trying to get Scotland women on the map, and they love sevens. They absolutely love the game of sevens. So in some aspects, it was the ideal job, because there was so much enthusiasm there from the players. And I'm quite enthusiastic as a coach. I bring hopefully a good energy to what we're about as a group. But they were just a great group of people to work with.
I was delighted when you got the opportunity, and it was great to see you experience some success. And I know the players enjoyed having that experience with you. Is that, as you look ahead into the crystal ball, is that something that you would like to have in the future, to be in charge of a sevens squad, or is 15s where you'd like to go, or are you just seeing what happens?
I think I've always been an individual that just kind of sees what happens. I think I like, or I really have a desire to do a really good job. I'm quite a conscientious individual, so I think in the here and the now, I need to concentrate on the role I'm in and doing a really good job there. And then whatever other opportunities kind of pop up out the back of that or alongside it, then I suppose the learning with the women's job was probably just to take them and run with them and see how I go. Look, at sevens is a great game. I do really enjoy the game of sevens. Coming from the borders was always a massive thing in terms of that spring circuit. There was always a big emphasis on sevens. I think it's a great game for the development of players. I would love there to be more sevens. I don't know how it fits into the landscape of things, but definitely from a development point of view, I know from the women and the girls, there's huge appetite from the players to play more sevens. And look at sevens, 15s. I'm not too sure, but we'll just see what happens. But hopefully keep going the way I am, and opportunities pop up. I just need to take them and see how I go.
There's no question there are opportunities coming. You get a phone call and the person on the other end of the line says, we want you and your brother. Could you work with him?
Yeah, I reckon I could.
Could he work with you?
Yeah, you probably need to, when you get him back on, you could ask him that. I don't know. I think, look, they're obviously a lot older than me, Bruce. So Scott's 10 years older, Clark's 13 years older. So when I was growing up, they were kind of at a different stage of their lives. They were kind of moving out of house. And I look back on that New Zealand experience with a lot of fond memories with Clark, because I never really had that time as such with him when I was growing up. And I think that 2 years brought us a hell of a lot closer than maybe what we were. And then I'd done my whole apprenticeship with Scott. So, that was great on some days, absolutely brutal on other days. And again, I'm sure if you asked him, he'd probably say similar stuff. But look, I definitely, I look up to Clark and what he's done in his coaching career so far. And look, he's done some amazing things. And I think that's what he's done. He's been given opportunities. I remember him saying when he got the opportunity to go and coach at the Hurricanes, thinking, geez, that is unbelievable. But when you speak to him, it was a hugely nerve-wracking type of experience for him going into an environment with seasoned All Blacks. And, I think if I was to put myself in that situation, it must, I'm not sure how I'd react or what I'd do. But the short answer, yeah, it would be quite a cool thing to do, wouldn't it? But who knows? We're on polar other sides of the world at the moment, and he's on a slightly different track, so we'll see what happens.
I think you'll claw him back. And how's your old man? How's Roy? Yeah,
so old man is doing okay. Look, the last year's been incredibly hard for him, losing his wife and his sidekick. He's it's been a tough mission for him, and he's obviously got Alzheimer's, which you just don't know how it's going to impact his life in the short, medium, long term. So, but look, on the whole, he's doing pretty well. He's fit, he's healthy, he's active. He's got a good wee routine going in his days around walking dogs and playing golf and eating cake and having coffee. So, look, I think when I look to him and the support network that he's got now, and that's been through rugby, really, I think that's probably the best thing about it, in terms of, you can play at the highest level, you can play the lowest level, but you've always got your friends, and his mates that he played with have been incredible, I suppose, over the last year, in supporting Dad and making sure that he's okay and getting him out of the house. And so, yeah, credit to them.
Yeah, your dad, he's always been really kind to me. And when I see the pictures of you at the finish line and he's got his bonnet on, I remember a story he told me. I've had lots of great chats with your dad over the years, and I remember him telling me that he'd been coaching at Melrose Sevens with, I think it must have been the Scottish Thistles, I think they were called at the time. But I think they got beat in the final, and he went back to Jed to see his old man. And, they got the players together on a Saturday morning. They got all the way to the final. They lost. And his dad had said to him, so, how did he get on? He said, oh, we lost in the final, Dad. And I think your granddad just said, oh, that's not very good, son, is it? So whenever I look at him at the finish line, I always wonder, what's he saying to you when you just run another marathon?
He's probably saying you're not right in the head, son. But yeah, it's awesome when I remember I done one down in Jed, so it started in Hoyk actually and ran to Jed, and he popped up 2 or 3 times along the route and actually ran parts of it with his bonnet on, with his shirt on, his shorts on, just just awesome, just Dad down to a T, no frills. Yeah, top man. So we'll be there to support as best as we can. Not always easy when we're not in the same town, but we'll do what we can.
No, we know you're giving them great support. Chris, I've absolutely loved speaking to you. I've got no doubt the future is very bright. At the end of these things, I ask people the question. I didn't tip you off on this one when you asked me. You were in a wee bit of flap before we started about what I'm going to ask. So at the end of this, you have to finish the sentence. So for you, Chris Laidlaw, happiness is?
Family.
Ah, good man. Now, on these runs, they're not necessarily family, but I know they feel like brothers. You've had a lot of support and training and actually on these runs, so you better give them a mention, because otherwise Keddy will be into me. So who do you need to say thank you to?
It's actually great timing because those boys are just about to finish Super 6, so I'm expecting them to be back on the road anytime soon. So, so CK, Craig Keddy and Jordan Edmonds were two boys that jumped on board early in terms of when I went to both of them and said, look, I'm going to take on this challenge. Are you in behind me to give me a bit of support and nudge along the way? And they, up until, I think, Marathon 3 pretty much, Junior done the first 3. Jordan completed the first 3, and if anyone knows Jordan, he's a big lad. So running 26 miles was nothing short of incredible. CK done the first 2, and then was supporting on the bike a little bit more after that. So they've been awesome. They get in touch regularly, make sure I'm trucking along, still ticking off some miles in the weeks. And as I said, I'm hopeful that they'll be back out supporting for the next sort of the last 3, if you like, because the season's about to wrap up. So. The support from everyone, the club at Burmuir, the club at Jed, individuals that I do know, individuals that I've never met before. I think that's been, the money's been great, but the reasons that I'm doing it and remembering Mum, I think people connecting to that's been the real ticket. And I suppose it's helped me and the family kind of come to terms and get through or go along the journey of the grieving process as well. So anyone that's been helping out, it's listened to this, thanks very much.
Chris, you're an absolute star. All the best for the last 3. I'm absolutely delighted you came on. Coaching's going well. I know you're well thought of. I'll see you at some point very soon on the touchline, I've no doubt. All the very best, and you never know. I might be there at the finish line with a glass of something for you. I'm not convinced I'll do much running.
I thought that was your point to say you'll be there for the last one, but either at the start or the end's all good as well. So
I get pelters because I helped at Bo'ness, who you did a brilliant thing for a couple of weeks ago. They did a sponsored pedalo around the pond at the Kelpies, and I was there for the last lap. So they give me a hard time about just being there for when the press arrives. So I'll get pelters again if I'm there for your last kilometre on the last one.
There's no point changing a habit now, Bruce.
Good man, Chris. Great to see you. All the best, fella.
Thanks for having me on. Much appreciated, Bruce. Take it easy.
You're very welcome. What a great guy, from a great place, doing great things in what we think's the greatest game. If you can support him, please get on there, go for a run, send him a message, send him a video, donate to those 3 great charities that he's doing work for, and you can hear they mean something to him, and he speaks from his heart. He's a very genuine guy. I've had the pleasure of coaching him, and I'm enjoying watching his coaching journey, and I will see him on the touchline, and no doubt we'll be watching him on TV at some point soon as well, although he might have to stand a bit closer to the razor. If you've enjoyed this, you can get us on Apple, Acast and Spotify. Please leave us a review, tell your friends, and you'll see us on YouTube and Facebook. But in the meantime, my name is Bruce Aitchison from Happiness is Egg-Shaped, and my happiness is egg-shaped. Look after yourself and stay safe.